hi, Jenna.
Well, hi, Shelby. Cheers. Happy
Cheers.
Sunday.
Happy Sunday. I know we don't usually record on Sunday, so this is nice.
I know.
We're in the daylight.
I know. I actually have some sunlight today and some coffee instead of alcohol.
Yes, Jenna made us coffees this morning.
Yeah, I have a new coffee maker, and it's magical. If you don't already have an espresso maker at home, it's pretty life-changing.
It is pretty life-changing.
And speaking of coffee, we're excited to have a second cup of coffee later today, too.
Gosh,
Shelby, you want to tell them why?
Because we've got our book club today. I'm so excited. And we, again, have so many new faces already from last month.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. So we're heading down to Corvus Coffee, which is downtown Denver. And it's like this super cute coffee shop. We chose the afternoon this time. So hopefully it's a little less busy.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to claim a pretty big corner. I think we had, like a dozen girls last month. And we might have even more this month because we're talking about Akatar and Akamath. Yeah. So it's going to be fun. We're excited. That's going to be going on later today. But before we get there, first, we're going to talk about A Court of Wings and Rune.
Yay! Oh my gosh. So this is the third installment of the Akatar series.
Yeah.
So, we are getting into it.
We are.
Spoiler free, what did you give this book as a rating?
So don't hate me. I actually only gave it a 4.5 on a reread.
And which you gave it a 5 last time?
I did give it a 5 last time. I still really liked it. Obviously, all the Akatar books are great, but in the last 3+ years since I've read this the first time, I've read a lot more adult fantasy, and I think that SJM is really great at writing relationships and people and like just really captivating characters in that sense. But for me, the like battle side of it fell just a little flat compared to some other stuff. I've now read some Brandon Sanderson and stuff too, and it's just hard to compare that like politicking and war side of it as much. And so I could still, 4.5 stars obviously still very good.
Right, absolutely.
It did come down just a tiny bit because as much as I loved being in Feyre's mind for this, and I still think that was really emotional and captivating. Actually, it was like not quite as good. That one didn't quite live up to the other ones.
Oh my goodness.
What about you? What did you rate Akor this time on your reread?
So I gave this one a 5 again. I loved it, I think even more than I did the last time.
Oh, good.
I know. I felt like while I was reading it, I was just so excited about it, and I seriously could not put it down, which I know we felt a little bit differently about this time.
Yeah, that was really funny. I'm generally a pretty fast reader. I don't know. Or I do get through books pretty quickly. I usually read about 100 books a year. Like not audiobooks, like I physically read them. And it took me 9 or 10 days to finish Akor. There was some other reading in between there, but I was kind of surprised. It was a lot longer than I remembered it being.
This is a really long book. It was like 750 pages.
I didn't really remember it being that. A lot happens. It's just it was a little long for me, but I'm really glad that you enjoyed it as much as you did the first time.
I did, and I feel like because I know. And I'm like so in depth, like with all of this tabbing and everything, I felt like everything just hit so much harder. And so like all of the scenes, like especially at the end, but even like very, very soon in the beginning, I was like looking for different things. But like you said, SJM is great with relationships.
Yes.
And so I was really enjoying that aspect of it for sure.
I also loved, I think there was more probably teasers in this book for Akasif than I remembered there being.
Me too.
So I really enjoyed that side of it also. Like I think Feyre's sisters played a larger role in this book maybe than I remembered just from like their own personality and their interactions with people. I don't think I read into it as deeply the first time that I read it because the focus of this book is Feyre's story before moving on to Nessa's story and Akasif. So that was fun. I did enjoy that.
That was a lot of fun. That was a really exciting portion of this. Any other spoiler-free thoughts before we just get into it?
Not exactly, except that I think we talked about this with Shatter Me, how it felt like one trilogy and then a second trilogy. And I know that was the intent here, is that we basically have a trilogy, kind of like a bridging novella, and then it switches from like new adult kind of more to adult,
right,
moving into Akasif and stuff. But it was nice reading through the end of this. I could see how that could be sort of a tie-off. Like if you only wanted to read the first 3 books of ACOTAR, I think you could, and you can enjoy them as a complete story. Like there could be more to come, right? But there are some books that leave things open-ended like that. And I did kind of enjoy that it had that like unfinished ending, but could be an ending.
Exactly. It's like you don't have to continue on with the series. Like you can, but you could just absolutely stop.
You could
there.
still
like,
enjoy
it. Yeah. It's like they ended Feyre and Rhysand's point of view in a really good way. And I know she has said that she's not writing anymore, Feyre and Rhysand, which I know a lot of people are really sad about. But I am really excited to see more POVs that come out in the future. Yeah. Especially after reading this one.
Yeah.
I was really excited about that.
So that's all I got, spoiler free.
I think that's what I got too. I'm definitely ready. All right, just a reminder.
Yeah, so spoilers for all of SJM, all the Sarah J. Maas books. So that means all of ACOTAR, all of Throne of Glass, just a little bit, and all of Crescent City. If you have not read them, up to date as of early December 2023, then wait to listen to this and come back.
Yeah, we'll definitely have some spoilers for other series, but go ahead and give us a follow, give us a review on Apple Podcasts, and we are just having an absolute blast with you guys. So let's get into it.
Yeah. So where do we want to start? Do we want to start in Spring Court?
Oh my gosh, yeah, we have to.
Sabotage.
Oh my gosh, I forgot all of the little pieces that she had going on in her mind on how she was going to sabotage the Spring Court.
She was ruthless. I feel like I read into it a little, especially having read Akasif now. I feel like I read into her actions a little bit differently. Like, she's not exactly toxic. I don't want to say Feyre is toxic, but there was a certain level of, I don't know. Maybe I'll ask that as a question. Do you think that how bloodthirsty Feyre was taking it too far at some points in Spring Court, or do you think it was entirely warranted based on Tamlin's behavior?
Oh gosh, I'm like a little bit torn on that, because even while I was reading it, while it was happening, I was like, get it, girl. Get it. Like, you tell him. And I don't think that she saw it happening as brutal as it did.
No, she definitely didn't.
Because she even makes a comment later on in the book where she says that, well, I didn't mean to leave them completely blinded like that.
Yep.
And so, I don't know. While it was happening, I absolutely loved it. But then afterwards, I started feeling a little guilty. Yeah. Like I had done it myself.
Right? And that's what I feel like SJM is so good about, because you really do feel like in Feyre's place. You know what I mean? Yes. Like I think you experience the emotions that she is. And that's one of the ways, I think, is that like, I don't know, excitement for revenge into guilt, you know?
Yeah. Which I love that she kind of has that like character aspect around her, because like she's doing all these things, right? But she's like, oh, like I do feel a little bit remorse. Like she can see like the entire situation, even if she's oblivious to a lot of other things happening around her.
Yeah. The first time I read this, I think I was 1,000% go Feyre, like you're awesome, like do what you need to do, he sucks. Yeah. But yeah, reading it this time, I don't know. There was a couple points pretty early in the book while she's in Spring Court of when she's like toying. I liked her toying with what is it? The twins, Branna and
Dagden and Branna. Yeah, you're right.
The twins. I'll just call them that. Like I thought that was really funny, and that was very like I appreciated that show of power of her kind of just like, I don't know, knocking them down a peg. But there were some points of her inner dialogue too that I was like, like, I don't know, you know, she sends the bog after the twins, and then she's doing all these things like undermining Tamlin from within and like poking at his relationship with Lucian, which is so big, and like using Lucian to make Tamlin jealous and make him weird. And then there's even a part when she's like getting in the mind of some of the soldiers, for lack of a better word. I don't remember what it is.
With the key, when Ianthe stole the key.
And she's like, oh, I could, I'm already in there. I could tell them to slit their throats if I wanted to. And
She says a lot of things like that.
Yeah. And I was like, damn, girl.
I know.
Like, that's
it was
okay. Take it
sometimes.
back a step. And she did, basically sacrifice one of them with the key situation to get her way to be able to look like she was blessed instead of Ianthe.
Yes.
And coming back this time, I don't know. I understand it was really crappy that Tamlin basically sold everybody out to try and get her back.
Yeah.
But if we're looking just from his perspective, and if he didn't really know what was going on, he thinks that Feyre was genuinely in danger, and he thinks that this is a way that he can try and get her back. He didn't know that was going to happen to the sisters. We talked about that last time.
Yeah.
He didn't know the sisters were going to go in the cauldron, and he
that
was
upset.
Ianthe. Yeah, and he was upset by that also.
Definitely.
I'm like, oh, she really did. I mean, she absolutely tore everything apart in a way that hurt not just him,
his
but
entire
all of Spring Court.
Yeah.
And then a little bit kind of Perithian, right? Because they did need his armies later.
Right. And
they weren't available.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, damn, girl. I was like,
I know.
All for the sake of revenge. Like, what good does revenge get you?
Exactly. And I know that she was like forced to go back to the Spring Court, so she was going to do anything she could to kind of stay sane.
Right.
But at the same time, it was kind of just like, it was a little too brutal. Like when you were just talking about the relationship with Lucian.
Yes.
When she had like the nightmare scene where she...
the fake nightmare.
Oh my gosh.
I did love
she
that
walks
scene,
in
though.
and she's like, oh, I can hear him. And she like grabs onto Lucian.
Wearing her little, tiny nothings or whatever.
Yes. And then you're like in her head and hear her talking about, oh, now I've planted the seed from everything else we've had with our interactions on how close she is with Lucian.
Mm-hmm.
And like clearly her and Lucian were nothing. And like Lucian was just like trying to be a good friend with her now because he's like...
He felt bad for his behavior before.
Right. And so, yeah, that part was actually sad to me this time.
Yes. Because
like,
Lucian totally got used.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
And granted, he didn't stand up for her before, and so I can get that she felt unhappy with how that had gone down too. I get where it was coming from, but it still made me feel sad for him.
I know. Well, and then the fact that she like ends up allowing him to like come back with her, to me, I was like, if you like, clearly she wanted to care for him and everything, but like since she had so easily used him, I was surprised on how easily she was like, okay, fine, you can come.
Feyre easily uses a lot of people. I think more than most readers want to admit. She used Tarquin.
Yeah.
She used Lucian. She uses her sisters at some points.
Yep. It's like
it makes sense why her and Rhys are mates.
Yeah.
Because they are both so ruthless.
I know. Like there's a scene at the very end of the book during the battle when all of their like creatures that they had made bargains with are now on the battlefield and they look at each other, and I had that same exact thought where I was just like, they really are perfect.
They really
mates
are
for each
perfect
other.
mates.
A little bit sneaky, a little sly, and like powerful and smart and all these things, but like they're definitely morally gray.
Yeah, they are.
Both of them.
Feyre too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I thought she was a little careless in her revenge.
I wasn't expecting to feel that way.
No, I wasn't either. I thought that I remembered him deserving it more.
Yes, me too. And this time I think I felt a little bit
more bad for him.
Yeah, like more pity, because like we've kind of talked about like through our other ACOTAR episodes that like he didn't know all of that was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so there was probably a lot going on his part. Like, why are you doing this? Like, all I was trying to do was save you. All I wanted to do was make sure you were okay. Mm-hmm. And here she comes and she's just like, of course she's upset from her point of view. I would be too. Mm-hmm. But like, I'm starting to step back and see Tamlin's point of view a little bit more too this time. Mm-hmm. And people are brutal about Tamlin.
People hate Tamlin so assertively. And and everyone who says that Tamlin is irredeemable, I have a hard time agreeing with that. And I think we'll get into that as we get later into the book. But it feels immature to me for someone to say that he's irredeemable, because every character in this book has made poor decisions.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And also, like, even the scene with the High Lords and some shitty things that he says, tell me a girl who has not been a jilted lover saying shitty things sometimes.
For real.
Everybody, everybody has said things that they regret after having their heart broken.
And this is his first time seeing Feyre and Rhys together.
I'm like, so I don't even, whatever. Anyways, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll definitely get there.
Yeah.
Did you notice when Feyre comes back, it was like literally the first day that she was there, Lucian says to Feyre, he's like, I know that bond isn't broken. I have a friend at the Dawn Court, and she made that same, like, glowing thing, like, whatever power. And she's like, oh, well, no, it did break the bond. She's like, no, it didn't. You don't know that.
I thought he said that he recognized it later after they got to Night Court, that he recognized it.
Oh, was that after?
I think it was, yeah. No, I think it was before or after, but yeah, I thought that was funny too. He's like, oh yeah, nice try.
Nice try, that was sketchy. I knew.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was.
So he already knew, but he didn't tell her that he knew.
Didn't say. But he was very skeptical like the entire time.
He was really skeptical.
I thought that was so crazy, which makes me have even more questions. Like we've already talked about his eye and everything.
Yeah, I have some questions on that.
So questionable.
Yeah, I definitely have lots of questions on what his eye can do, because they talk about, well, and Amryn even admires it at one point too, and is like,
that's some good handiwork.
Yeah, but the only thing that he says about it is, it's on like 339. He just says it can see things that others ... can't. Spells, glamours ... and that's it. That's all we really get from it. So that tease, it's kind of like my power is the truth. That's another one. I was like, I wonder what all you're going to be able to see that others can't, or how much he keeps to himself with that eye.
I know. I wonder that too. And part of me wonders if Feyre's going to like go back into his mind and try to see more things from him, because she does it when they're in the library, but she feels really bad about it.
Well, but I think part of why she feels so bad about it is because Nesta catches her.
I think so too. I don't think she would have felt as bad if she wouldn't have been caught.
Nope. I don't think she would have felt as bad if she wasn't caught.
Nesta was pissed.
Yeah.
She's like, what the fuck did you just do?
Yeah. Oh, my girl Nesta.
Oh, Nesta. How'd you feel about the sisters this time?
I felt really bad for them. I felt like, and I know I wrote down a couple. There was like a couple times specifically that Feyre really briefly runs over in her mind things where she clearly was a bad sister too. And specifically, I think the one that was the most obvious for me was when she completely forgot that the day had come and passed that Elaine was supposed to get married. And she hadn't even checked on Elaine at all. She was just, and I get there's a lot of other things going on in the world that she's worried about. You know, she's high lady, but this has been a traumatic experience for your sister. Your sister thought she was going to have a love marriage.
And you can see that she's
upset,
not okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And have it not even cross your mind until days later. Everybody says that Feyre uses, or that Feyre's sisters use her. But
I think it's the other way around.
I think it's both ways. I think it's like a regular family, right? There's things that both of them do that are not great.
Definitely.
But, yeah, I was really sad by that. And also, she makes a comment later when they're like questioning what happened in the cauldron, and she says something to the point of like, wow, I don't think I've ever even asked like how long it felt like for them, or what happened to them, or what it was like has never even asked them about it.
Right. And we've talked about in previous episodes that like we do think that Feyre is a little selfish. And I saw that even more this book, especially since I know we're about to go into Akasif in a little bit here, and I'm like, I know we're about to get a different point of view, but I did feel like a lot of it was really just about Feyre. Like she never, like she asked if her sisters were okay when she was in the spring court, but like she didn't ask anything else. And I understand that she didn't want to like give anything away, but at the same time, if that was your main priority, I think she asked about Cassian and Asriel first.
Yeah, it's and it's not even to say any, no hate on Feyre either. It's not that I think that she's bad. It's just, I think all of the sisters have done things that are less than great.
Definitely.
And like, yeah, Elaine was kind of mopey for most of this book, but remember how Feyre was after Under the Mountain for months?
Exactly.
So,
and how mean that she was to Rhys.
Yeah. And she was wasting away because she didn't want to take care of herself and didn't want to do that too. So I think it's unfair to expect her sisters to pick it up faster than she did.
I agree. She does expect them to just like pick up and move on.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point she even like, not as harshly says so, but she's like, why are you guys not okay? Like, this is fantastic. This is all great. But then, yeah, you don't really think about, like, she was under the mountain for 3 months. And granted, like, she brought herself under the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she like put herself in this world, but like, she also didn't choose to become High Fae.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she wasn't kidnapped, right? But she also didn't choose this life necessarily. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I feel like she doesn't have as much compassion as I maybe necessarily thought she did before.
Or should.
Yeah, or should. Yeah. For how much that she talks about, oh, my sisters don't care about me, it's really just like a double standard.
Yeah, and I do think that the sisters care because there's like multiple points where I think they show her affection when she's not expecting it, or even that Feyre inspires Nesta to tag along to the High Lords meeting.
Right.
And Nesta says that specifically. She's like, well, if you can stand up, for this court that isn't even yours, then I can do this, right? And
I don't want to be known as a coward.
Yeah.
I loved that. Oh.
Well, okay, so jumping back a little bit.
Yes.
I just gotta laugh. The Feyre being blessed instead of Ianthe scene.
Oh my god, that was so funny.
I think that was my favorite part of her being in spring.
I think so for me
because I could
too.
just so picture that, like just using your foot to like subtly push this rock over just a little bit and be like, oh, it's me that the sun's shining on. Well, I mean, okay.
I also thought that was so funny. And like, I wouldn't have thought to do that. Like, she'd clearly been watching.
Yeah.
She was
so smart. Yeah.
And then it was so funny because like Lucian like gets on his knees and bows to her. I was like,
he's kind of like, yeah, all right, sure.
That's my girl.
Yeah. I know. I do love Lucian in this book because he's trying, he really made poor decisions before, but he really is trying.
Yeah. He realized it, and he realized that the way that he was acting with Feyre wasn't necessarily the way he should have been acting. And so he was like, I'm sorry, like, you were always a better friend to me than I was to you. Like, let me try to redeem myself.
Yeah. So with Lucian, what did you think when he decides he wants to come with, so after Feyre has killed the twins and she's like about to start going back to Night Court, and he says he wants to go with to see Elaine, and they're like kind of trekking back there, and he's asking about her and stuff, and he asks if she's worth fighting for.
Yeah, I didn't love that.
I was like, from the way that mates in this book have been described, how is that even a question?
Exactly. That actually brings me to a point, like, we talked about last time about how Rhys said that he would tear apart the world to find her.
Yep.
Lucian doesn't really do that, and he thinks that she's in the Court of Nightmares, in this just, like, awful place where they're gonna, like, beat her, and he thinks that all these bad things are happening, but he doesn't rip apart the world to find her. Or do really anything until she's like, well, I'm going back. And he's like, well, I'm gonna go see for myself one time.
I will say, devil's advocate, Rhys held off on trying to pull Feyre out after Under the Mountain, even though he knew she was his mate, because he thought that's what she needed and wanted at that time.
Yeah.
So I could give Lucian that he was waiting because he thought that Elaine didn't want him at that time, right? Like he felt like that was the right decision, was to give her space right in the beginning, right?
Well,
tearing the world down to find her wouldn't have been the right answer.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm 50-50 on that.
Yeah. I feel like, so going back to like A Court of Thorns and Roses, when Rhys suspects that Feyre is his mate, but then he doesn't realize it until like the very end when it like snaps. And I mean, Rhys always does what's best for Feyre, so we love Rhys. But I don't know. I feel like in the very beginning, he didn't have enough evidence to know.
I'm not talking about the very beginning. I'm talking about the beginning of Akamath. for the months before he pulls in the bargain.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, when he didn't pull her from the spring court. Yeah. Okay, you're right. Like he's letting her do. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the only reason why I'm like, I kind of give Lucian a little bit of grace for trying to wait, because as much as, although to be fair, no, I don't know, because Rhys knew that spring court was bad for her and that she was unhappy
and that she was throwing up every.
Yeah. I was gonna say, but maybe where Lucian thought that Elaine was worse, but I'm not sure.
Well, it like kind of begs the question, like Feyre and Rhys have this like link in this bond, right? Do you think that's happening with Elaine and Lucian while Lucian's at the spring court?
I wonder if it is a little bit, because Lucian mentions when he's trying to pull Elaine out of her shell when they're in the library, the House of Wind.
No, they're in the townhouse when this is happening.
Yeah. And he says that he like tugs, basically is like trying to follow the mating bond and like
bridge.
tugs on it. Yeah. And she kind of is like,
she's like,
startled.
what was that?
And is like, no. So I think it's there, but I don't think either of them are trying to access it. But I wonder if, like how Feyre was shouting down the bond.
Yeah.
I wonder if Elaine has been too, and he's
like sensing it. And honestly, devil's advocate at the same time, maybe she's not shouting anything, and so he thinks she's fine.
Yeah.
That could be it too. But when he was trying to pull her out, I thought that was such a good scene. And I didn't remember that from the first time that I read it, when he was like, well, the bond is definitely there. Like, that's definitely my mate. But she clearly, like, she's not trying to seek it out. She's not trying to, like, find it. He's like, she's just kind of hollow and empty. And that defeat is what brings him to be like, okay, I'm gonna go do something.
Give you some space. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So speaking of, I don't know, mating bonds and reactions, though, when Feyre is escaping spring court and she's trekking through autumn court with Lucian, and the bond is silent because of the Faebane, is that what it was?
Yes. Yep.
Faebane. And Rhys decides that's the time that he's gonna go and fly over the continent. Like, did that seem out of place to you for anything else? For how his reaction has been any other time that the bond's gone silent or that he thinks something might have happened to her, he's been frantic
to get back,
to get to her and to try and find her and searching anywhere. That felt so misplaced to me and so sketchy.
Or maybe purposefully misplaced.
Yeah, that he was... I felt like there was something else going on there.
I thought there was, because he wouldn't tell her at first when she's like, where were you? And he's like, oh, can we just let's get freaky first.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, well, I was flying over the, human queen's land trying to look and what are they doing? I don't know.
Seemed a little sketchy.
Yeah. It seems like if the bond was feeling that dark for days, I wouldn't expect that to be his reaction.
Well, and then that begs the question too, because he says to her, when I got to the spring court and you weren't there, I thought you just said you were flying over the continent.
I noticed that too. I know.
Oh, that I was like, did I just read that right? Did he just say he was in the spring court?
He did.
And he heard a roar.
Yes, but it wasn't near because she was already gone.
Yeah. I'm so curious to see. There were a few points where I thought Rhys was a little sketchy in this one.
There definitely were. And it was fun to see his show of power again in this book and kind of get reminded how much stronger he is than everybody else. And even everybody else is saying, like, he's no more like the other Fae than Fae are to humans or something like that, right? Like they always are comparing
something else,
him of being like so much more power than everyone else. So
it's very interesting.
So that was one of those moments too, like, our conspiracy theory of Rhys being a principal, but like, I don't know, maybe you were somewhere else during that time. I know. So that was weird.
But I mean, even look at, like, we were talking about Feyre and like how much she's changed. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if now that she's got all this power too, which, holy crap, she was powerful in this one too. Yeah. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if she's like taking some of that on a little bit. There were a few points where he just like disappeared and then would just like show all of his power. Oh man.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
But after, oh gosh, okay, another funny thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, after Eris and friends catch them when they're escaping, and we have the not a shadow but an Illyrian warrior just chef's kiss scene. That was like the most cinematic scene to read.
I love it.
But
have you seen the
go ahead.
TikTok where they talk about like the song that would go perfectly with it?
No.
The song is called Lion, and it's like bring the lion
Oh,
out.
yes, I have.
Oh,
Yeah.
and they say like they drop like
Yeah.
when the beat drops, and I like every time I
Chills.
read it, I like listen to the song. I'm like, ah.
But my favorite thing to think about after that scene is how do the Bat Boys carry Lucian? Is it they're like are they like cradled like is he like being the knees and like shoulders, are they cradling like this? Is it like front to front like hugging? Is it like back to chest like under the arms like
Big
how
spoon, little spoon
how are
on the back like a spider monkey.
See, but they got wings, so we know it can't be like that.
Oh yeah.
But it just makes you really wonder, like, how they're carrying, because they fly with Lucian a lot.
I pictured it because Cassian makes a note and says, I don't know who's more uncomfortable, Ezreal or Lucian.
I really like to imagine it as, like, cradled, like, face to face. He was like,
I imagine it like holding it out, like just like grabbing onto the waist. At arm's length.
oh, man, that's just like a workout, just holding it out there. So, yeah, that always makes me laugh a little bit when I think about
Me too.
how they might carry him. Because it's never really described, and I think it's funny.
It isn't really described with like any of them when they
Well,
talk
with
about
the girls, I feel like it's less weird to think about them being, scooped up or whatever, because usually the ones carrying them are...
He's the same size as them.
I know. Oh, man.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yep, so that makes me laugh a lot.
Oh man.
Oh, man.
I love during that scene when Cassian's like, you better drop my lady.
Oh, man.
That
Good stuff.
was so funny.
Good stuff.
I know. During that scene when Cassian goes, you better drop my lady, and then Feyre goes, stop. I don't want you to kill them.
Yeah.
Part of me wonders why?
Smart politicking.
Yeah.
She has leverage now over them. I think, and later, I think we're learning that having that leverage with Eris is helpful.
Yeah.
And I think she's trying to show her power by not just killing them, but also being
Right.
like, we have power over you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was an
I guess
interesting play. It was a risky play.
It
but-
was a risky play, and like you're talking about how we see that Eris's companionship might be a little helpful. Going back to Rhys being sneaky, he hid it from everybody, including Feyre.
And more.
And that broke my heart.
That was, I think, for me, that was the most emotional to read again this time.
It was.
Like, not because the end of the book, I knew it was coming and I knew he was going to come back.
Yeah.
And so I think I was like mentally prepared going into that. But that scene where he is in the Court of Nightmares with everybody, and Moore was already really not wanting to go.
She was already uncomfortable.
Because they're
Yeah.
begging for her father's help in to bring his warriors, right? And when it comes out of the blue for her more too, and she's like so
Yes.
heartbroken, like, how could you surprise me like this? How could you ruin our friendship like this? Basically, like 500 years of
Right.
trust, and you're gonna bring this over me without. And she was so mad at Az about it too. That was so hard.
I know that was so hard, and at the same time, Rhys is giving her father like reign in Valaris.
Right? Yeah, so it's like the place that means the most to her, and he's just like, yeah, okay, done.
Yeah, he's like, cool. I already figured this was gonna happen. We already talked to the people that we have out there. Like, that was, to me, there was just no need to blindside people like that. And like, no wonder that Moore, and I remembered in Akasif too, like Moore isn't clearly happy that she's like doing all the things that she's doing. And like, no wonder if he's been doing this to her for 500 years.
Yeah, that was really hard to read.
I know. I want to know what the heck actually happened 500 years ago with Mor and Eris, because there were so many moments where Eris is like, you guys do not even know the whole full story.
Yes. Yeah, that's come a few times too, because it's clear that he must have known that she liked women, right? Like
I wonder.
Oh, I think it was because there's a part, it's somewhere tabbed, I'm not going to pull it out. But when Eris is talking back through from like his perspective, and he's like, oh, like I wouldn't have touched you, but then you like, you know, sullied yourself with that Illyrian warrior. And then he's like, oh, but I know that you had your reasons, and like gives her like a knowing look.
Okay.
And so I think in that scene, he was saying like, I knew that you preferred women, and I was going to just let you do your thing. But then you had to make this whole big deal out of it, and basically saying like, there's something that happened that he had to protect his honor. And yeah, the nail in the womb reminded me of the witch in Throne of Glass, who has
it's a,
whatever
like
unclean carved into her stomach.
It reminded me of that too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But I hope at some point we get like a background to what actually happened. Yeah,
that would be really nice. I'd love to see that.
Mor, whose power is freaking truth, but she has so many secrets.
Oh, Mor. Yeah.
Mor. We really didn't learn that much more about her power.
No.
We don't see it on the battlefield. We don't see it when she's talking to like other people in the city. We don't see it at any point. Mm-mm. So I still have no idea what it means.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. But there were a bunch of people talking on our TikTok about there's like a Celtic theory or a Celtic like background.
The Morrigan is yeah.
It means like dark witch or something. And so there was even a point where Feyre says, I think she can see in the dark.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting.
That she was born into darkness, and so she could like see in it or something. I noted that too, actually.
Yeah. So that'll be really interesting to hopefully understand more about what's going on with the Morrigan.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, okay. Let's talk some more about, I think, the library and the prison. Those are a couple of places that we get a little more information in this book.
Yeah. I like that Feyre was overcoming her like fear to go into the prison, because she does it a few times in this book. And I know in Akasif we see more about what happens in the prison, and so I'm excited.
Oh yeah, okay, good.
And so I'm really excited to like read more about that again. But now I'm really just going into like when I read the scenes about the prison, I'm like, this to me has to be the Eighth Court. Like, there are so many things that we don't know about that are in this prison.
Yeah. Well, it makes me wonder if it used to be the Eighth Court, and then maybe when the Fae that used to be that Eighth Court went to Midgard? No. What is it?
In Crescent City?
Yeah.
I think it's Midgard.
I was just thinking about that. I was like, or is that
like,
the Avengers? Is that Thor? I don't remember. But whatever city is in, Crescent City, if like something else, because it keeps sounding like everything else that came through that wasn't of this world, kind of like Amarin, came through that rip in the world maybe at the same time. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they always talk about that the wards and the spells of the prison are older than Prythian, and so we're all of the things that are in there, and I don't know, there's a lot of talk about how everything from the prison is before Prythian existed, and I think most of them being not of this world.
I think so too. And at least that's what it's sounding like, because going back to like the bone carver, he had said like, what was in these other worlds? Like, he's questioning like, where did you go when you died? And it was really wild to me that he was okay with just staying in there. Like, he didn't want to go to the other world. He just wanted to know about it and what was going to happen like when he died. But I don't know.
It was interesting that the bone carver was hiding from his twin sister, the Weaver, too.
That was weird to me.
It makes you wonder what happened in the past that made him feel like he needed to hide from her and from The other one starts with like an S and is in the lake or something.
Oh yeah, I don't
It's
remember.
not in this book, but I think it's in Akaseth.
Yeah, I don't remember what that like death god or whatever. I don't remember what they were called.
Koshi.
Oh, Koshi. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and I think that Koshi must be in Akaseth because I feel like I kind of remember that.
Koshi
but
is in
yeah, that the Weaver was his twin. I thought was so interesting.
That was so interesting. And like, why is she free out in the world when the Bone Carver, what did he do to get put in the prison?
I've wondered that about all of them because even Amren, you know, she talks about how she came into the world, and you know, she kind of talks about like fooling the prison to get out by you know, assuming this Fey body or whatever. But we still don't know how she got put in the prison in the first place.
No, we don't.
Or who put her there or when.
Right.
So that's interesting.
I know.
And with all those creatures that are in the prison that we know, or there's a lot of them there.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Maybe Akaseth will find out, but we still haven't had any repercussions of the Book of Breathings joining back together. Yeah. And the Cauldron's power being used. Right. And there was kind of a big stink being like, oh, this is going to pull everything from the dregs of the world to like come. They're going to come calling because of that power being used. And I think I think there's going to be things in the prison that are interested.
I think so too.
This is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was really interesting before we talk about the library. Yeah. I thought it was really interesting on 285 when Nesta goes to Amren, "What were you?" And she starts to tell her a little bit, and she said, "A messenger and a soldier assassin for a wrathful god who ruled a young world." And I'm like,
and we know this young world also had humans. She talks about that later, that the young world also had humans that she admired for like being able to love and have more complex emotions than her. And we knew that the humans there warred and, you know, I don't know, had other things, other extreme things going on. So we know that about the world that she came from and that she had lots of brothers and sisters. Yes. Yeah, and she was unlike the other brothers and sisters.
Yes. There was a point, too, where they asked her why she chose that body. And she's like, oh, I liked it. But then they traveled and they said, it looks a little bit like Amren.
Oh, the one from Winter? Is that right?
That's what it was. Yeah. And so how does she know what the Fae from Winter Court looked like before she left on the prison?
Right? Yeah, that was really interesting, too. I thought
Did she eat the person and steal her skin?
I don't know. Well, because it's the woman that has the mechanical arm that made Lucian's eye. That's who Amren looks like, right? And everybody was like, oh, it could have been modeled off of her. Yeah. Very interesting.
Very interesting. Again, I feel like she's just like this character that we just like get these little like bits and pieces about. And I'm like, I just need to know like her whole story. Like, tell me more.
What did you think about her betrayal this time?
I forgot it was coming. And it broke my heart. And like, I know that she wants to escape and everything, but like, it just seemed so selfish until she actually like comes back and like saves them. But I was just like, when I read it, I was so sad.
I was more mad this time than I was the first time.
Oh yeah, I was too.
I think I felt more betrayed by Amren this time.
Yeah, I definitely did. I could not believe that she betrayed them like that. It didn't really, for everything that they have done and for all of the promises that Rhys has been like, this is like, we want you to know everything that's going to like happen with the book and everything because it's got these secrets and we're going to let you out and we're going to like try to get you home. But then she goes and does that during the worst time.
Yeah. And it's interesting that the serial was the one that gave her like the information of the pages to look at, knowing it was only going to help her, or maybe he just knew that she would be able to keep it in check enough to also help. I mean, clearly he knew what was going to happen because he, you know, the stay with the High Lord through that moment, right, of him dying. So clearly he knew how the outcome of that battle was going to go. Yeah. But I think I was just mad that Amren didn't tell anybody what she was going to be doing.
And I'm like, you couldn't have waited to do this until after you guys had like a victory in the war and you realized like all of the people that you loved weren't dead?
Well, I mean, she did help, right? But I don't know. I just think knowing who it came from and that everyone seems to trust the serial's information, it seems odd that she would not let anybody else know what she was finding there.
Well, because Feyre didn't know what that meant, but as soon as Amryn read it in the book, she knew what it meant, and then she just kept it to herself. Do you think, spoiler for Crescent City, do you think Bryce is going to be able to read the Book of Breathings? Or Aelin?
Yeah. I think Aelin is, but I'm not sure about, I guess maybe Bryce too, but can Bryce read? Like word marks and other things? She works in the okay, so kind of on that note, though. I also don't know, I don't know if this stood out to you, but like one of the first times when we're really in the library, it's like probably around page 200.
Was that when Rhys brings
Feyre?
Yep.
And she first meets like the first priestess that can't talk and everything.
Clotho. Yes.
And he's talking about how back in one of the wars, back hundreds of years before, how the Fae burned the libraries rather than let humans have information. It made me wonder if any of those texts weren't burned, and there's some of the ones that what's her name? Just something.
Oh, it wasn't Justinia, because that was Fourth Wing.
No, that's Fourth Wing, but it's like just something.
Jasiba,
yes.
Yeah.
Because remember, she has all those really unique and like texts that Bryce is basically like guarding.
Well, and then in Crescent City, we'll have to when we reread, we'll talk about it. But I'm pretty sure she said that they are from other worlds.
Right, and so it makes me wonder if that's some of the ones, if maybe they were able to save some of that older history, and that it's living in Crescent City right now. That's where those books are.
So interesting.
And so, I don't know. Like maybe Bryce will have some more knowledge of like older world stuff from having been around it. I don't know.
Oh, that would be.
I thought that was interesting though, that they were pointing that out of. There's all this history. It did kind of remind me of Fourth Wing in that. Yeah. History being erased because the books are gone, and what do you do now?
I know, and I had completely forgotten that they had really just like gotten rid of everything. I thought that was wild. Want to talk about Bryaxis?
Yeah. Yes. Well, and like him and his home in the library.
That was so funny.
Yeah, okay, first of all, Cassian's reaction is just so funny.
I love it so much. He's like, so good. Don't go down there. And I've seen so much fan art about like I know that it was supposed to be in Akasif, but when he's like laying in bed with Nesta and he looks up and Bryaxis is just like, boo. Like he's doing it to like be funny because Cassian is so scared of him.
It's so funny. Yeah, that was his like first interaction with Feyre, and Feyre being like, please help me.
I know. She's like, do you want me to kill them? Yes, please.
Yeah, that was really interesting. And especially because of how the library is described with, making its own rules and like, it's this pit of darkness and feels like this break in through the world and stuff. It makes you wonder if there's like some type of portal to another world there, or if that's where the rip happened and that's where things came out. There's just seems to be enough weird things.
Right.
And they talk about the kind of like the House of Wind, that the wards and things are different. Yeah. They're also like, she can't talk through her mating bond when she's in the library, and there's a lot of weird things going on.
She also can't in the prison.
Yeah. Well, and that Bryaxis wants to stay there, like just wants a window, right? But he wants to stay there. He's like, well, this is my home. It makes me wonder if he's like guarding something there.
That would be really interesting. I think that both the library and the prison are maybe some type of like portal or something to another realm, like a rip in the world. Oh, that would be so interesting. Well, because I know a lot of things come in threes. Do you think there's a third one?
Maybe that's what the Pool of Starlight is or something.
Oh my gosh, that would be so interesting.
There were so many good theories that people were commenting on for what they thought the Pool of Starlight was.
There really were.
I think somebody said that it was the location that Tamlin burned the Illyrian wings. I thought that was maybe like a good thought.
I thought that was a good one too. In fact, I think that was my favorite theory.
Yeah.
There were other like
really
a rip
ones.
in the world, or it was like a gift from the Night Court at some point. But yeah, there were a lot of really great theories.
Yeah, people are so creative.
Yeah, they seriously are. I love it so much. I love it.
Do you have anything else on the library? Otherwise, I'm gonna move on.
I just love that there was a place that Rhys built for these females that had been hurt so badly, and he was like, let me create this like safe space for you, and that they would feel so safe even with Briaxis there. I thought that was really interesting.
And it does say something about Rhys that as much as he's morally gray, he does want to help the helpless.
He does, always. Like, you see it with like other courts, you see it with the Illyrians, you see it with the women of the library. Like, he really does fight for everybody to have like this equal standing. And so I think that's awesome too, because that's one of Feyre's like big morals too, is she wants everybody to have like this equal
fair chance.
Yeah, I like that a lot. What's your next thought?
Oh, I just want to talk about the old gods.
The old gods
Were mentioned kind of briefly, and I think maybe it was by Amren. Let me flip to it and see. This is 233 is what I had marked. No, Cassian, I guess, was talking about it, and it must be when they went to the prison, and he was saying like there was life here before the High Lords took Perithian. Old gods, we call them. They ruled the forests and the rivers and the mountains. Some were those things. Then the magic shifted to the High Fae, who brought the cauldron and the mother along with them. Though the old gods were still worshipped by a select few, most people forgot them. But that they ruled the forests and the rivers and the mountains, some were those things. I think that came back to me a little bit more as we were going throughout this book. You know, there's like this scene when Feyre is running from Ianthe towards the Weaver, and she's like, oh, the forest is parting for me and tripping them. And there's some other times when there's like the wind, they talk about the wind and the rocks can hear, and the wind and the rocks are like having a reaction or something. And there's a few parts where they talk about basically nature itself being like suggesting that it's conscious,
alive.
or has some, I don't know, sentience to it. And so that, I thought that was kind of interesting to see. I'm trying to remember that and put it in my back pocket for when we read Crescent City, because I think in Crescent City they talk more about the old gods and the forgotten gods. There's like a lot more lore on that there. And
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, and I thought that was really, I don't know. It made me think about it for sure. Especially the some were those things, because when there were other parts where it seemed like nature was doing weird stuff, like the trees parting, I just,
that's so interesting.
Kind of stayed in my back pocket.
Because I also had it tabbed, but I didn't think about it as, I just kind of like swept over it. But I definitely caught like when she was running away from Ianthe and them, like that was doing that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I didn't connect the dots. So I'm really glad you bring that up.
Yeah. And the other part that I was thinking about that is because Amren was saying when Feyre was trying to ask Amren, I don't know, questions about what she is, or, you know, how she escaped from the prison basically. And she's not wanting to tell. And she goes, because the stone beneath this house has ears and the wind has ears, all of it listening. And if it reports back, that they'll remember that they have not caught me. And so that's why I say, it was like, I feel like there is a sentience to the world itself, that we haven't fully acknowledged in this book. It's in the background.
And I wonder if we'll see more in like Akasif too.
We might, for sure.
Oh, that's so interesting.
That just made me so curious.
I know,
because we already know the bone carver and the weaver and Koshi, that they're old death gods is kind of our assumption, right? But we don't really know what other old gods might be present.
I know, that's very interesting. How did you picture the library?
I feel like it's gonna be hard for me to describe in my mind. And then it's hard too, because how I just picture the library in this book, and especially this time reading it, I think was similar to how I picture a like certain library from the Way of Kings. And so I'm like, I feel like I was blending those together in my mind because I've read them too close together. But I don't know. I was imagining it as like underground, you know, in National Treasure, when they're going down in like the pit and you can just like see down and like it's just like bottomless. So I imagined the center of it like that, but then kind of like there are like levels each along the way that like have just racks and racks of books and like little sitting spots and stuff, but that the center was just literally just like a pit down kind of like National Treasure with the stairs all the way around.
Yes, that's pretty much what I pictured too. I pictured it like in the middle of a mine.
Yeah.
And like on the outside, like when it's like spiraling down, it's just got all these like bookshelves and everything.
Yeah.
But I was curious to see how you pictured it too.
Sometimes it's hard to describe what I'm picturing.
I know,
in
me
my
too.
mind. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Awesome. Well, kind of like we have with the rest of ACOTAR, we have so much to talk about that we're just going to make a part 2. And so we'll see you guys on our next episode.
See you next time.
Bye.